Okay, so we just went over this first part, right? It says introduction. We went over that together. And now we filled this out. And now we're going to look at modeled and guided instruction. Just say Zebulon Pike up here. I want to point out a lot of these pages have things to help you, especially the pages that you do that I don't make a video for. So if you scroll down here, it says close reader habits. And so you could read this, and it usually gives you a clue or a way to help you. So this says, when you reread the accounts, underline phrases or sentences that show the point of view each author expresses about Pike's expedition. So that's already telling me what to look for before I read the directions. Underline things that show the point of view or feelings the author expresses about Pike's expedition, whatever that is. I'm about to find out. Okay, so follow along in your packet, or you can read up here if you are able to see. Okay, I'm going to use just my blue cursor to highlight things I think I would highlight. You're welcome to add extra things on your paper. All right, so Zebulon Pike and the source of the Mississippi. So think about like the Mississippi River, if you've ever gone to the river in downtown Memphis, right? So the source, where does the water start that travels all the way down the Mississippi River and right by Memphis? So this is written by George Chester. In August 1805, Zebulon Pike and a group of men left St. Louis, Missouri to explore the little-known Mississippi River. Their mission: find the river's source, which is where it begins. Pike and his men traveled north along what would become the borders of Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. A pleasant autumn gave way to a brutal winter, and Pike and his men suffered horribly. Okay, horribly, that's a description word. So that's kind of telling me what Chester thinks about Pike's expedition or Pike's mission. So I would probably put they suffered horribly, and they suffered because it was a brutal winter. Brutal is like really horrible, or if someone's brutal, they're mean. Okay? But on February 1st, the expedition reached Lake Sang Sue, also called Leech Lake. Believing he had found the source of the Mississippi, an exhausted but overjoyed Pike claimed victory. But the truth is that Pike had failed. Ooh, so he's telling me what he thinks about Pike. He thinks Pike has failed. So I would underline that. Later explorers discovered that the Mississippi's true source is Lake Itasca, roughly 25 miles west of Leech Lake. Pike's expedition was a disaster. A brutal 2,000-mile trip made in ice and snow for nothing. Dang. So he's saying, okay, he made this hard trip. It was really difficult. He had to work really hard to get there. And then it turns out he was wrong. Therefore, his trip was a failure. So I know what his point of view is. Okay, let's look at the second source or account here. This says, from the journals of Zebulon Pike, right? That was this guy. The guy that went on the trip, he kept a journal, and we're getting to read part of his journal that I guess was published. So here we go. January 7, 1806. Made but 11 miles, and then were obliged to send ahead and make fires every 3 miles, notwithstanding which the cold was so intense that some of the men had their noses, others their fingers, and others their toes frozen. Before they felt the cold sensibly, very severe day's march. Okay, so he's saying it was very severe. It was intense, and tells us like he's able to give us really specific details, like their fingers and toes are frozen. All right, January 12th, 1806. Went out and met my men. A tree had fallen on one of them and hurt him very much, right? So that's not really an opinion, but it does tell us what he's thinking about, and it's a detail that I notice is different from the other author. January 13th, 1806. After encountering much difficulty, we arrived on Lake DeSable a little before night. The ice being very bad on the lake river, one sled fell through. February 1st, 1806. Left our camp pretty early and arrived at Lake Sang Sue at 2:30. I will not attempt to describe my feelings. Watch out. Describe my feelings on the accomplishment of my voyage, for this is the main source of the Mississippi. So he's feeling excited, right? Accomplishment means, hey, I did it. I accomplished it. I finished. Um,